Hi, welcome back to part 2 of our free video training on how to meditate. Now in part 1, I hope you all watched that, I taught you how to do the 1-minute meditation where we use a breathing technique to ramp up the amount of oxygen, which is really carrying prana or life force into the brain. And when the brain gets more oxygen and more prana, it feels more composed and calm. It feels more stable, more able to handle stress like water off a duck's back. You may have begun to experience what I'm talking about when I say the eye of the hurricane, the ability to be composed and calm in the midst of your activity. And the more that you do it throughout the day, the more you can reset that experience of composure and calm. The 1-minute meditation is something you can do for the rest of your life. And I talked to you about this as part 1 or the first meditation in our 6 meditations for emotional freedom as part of our transformational awareness technique, meditation technique. This technique, I use it all the time. It's a fantastic reset to get you to be composed and calm. It's great even while you're playing tennis or or before a sporting event or before you're really going into a stressful situation like asking your boss for a raise or something. Breathing and then being still, doing 1-minute meditation can completely ratchet up the amount of oxygen, prana, carrying potential we have, and the brain starts to be more calm. Breathing, like I said in part 1, is a powerful anchor to help still the mind. And in the beginning, we need to really help train the mind that it is okay for us to be still, for us to be quiet, for us to be calm. And like I talked about in part 1, we have created a culture where we're so addicted to stimulation that we're not sure that it's okay to be still. We don't feel safe when we're still. We feel safe when we're stimulated. And we have to reverse that trend, to recondition and reset the brain to know that it is safe to be calm, that the eye of the hurricane is the source of my unlimited potential. And the more stressed out I become, the more I find myself dodging refrigerators in the winds of that hurricane, and I feel exhausted and wasted and spent at the end of my day, and I recover on the weekends, and I'm exhausted at night, and I can't even sleep at night. And we just feel the aging process catching up with us, and it doesn't have to be that way. And Ayurveda is such a cool science because the whole thing is about teaching you how to be calm, how to establish being and then perform action, how to live in that eye of the hurricane. There's an old saying that says, do less and accomplish more. And the do less and accomplish more really means to, in a big part of the Ayurvedic model, is to live in harmony with the natural cycles, to go downstream with the current, to finish your day with the same energy as you started, not to go against the grain of Mother Nature. It's a dangerous thing to do that. I was reading a study recently that I blogged about that animals in the forest, herbivores like deer, for example, they eat barks and things and roots in the winter, and they eat leafy greens in the spring and the summer. And their microbes in their gut change dramatically from being able to digest barks in the winter and leafy greens in the summer. And if you gave them leafy greens in the wintertime, it would create such an indigestion that it could literally kill them because they don't have the microbes to support that. Now, I know that we are completely different, but if eating out of season against the grain of Mother Nature will kill a deer, does that mean that we can just eat anything we want whenever we want and have no connection to nature? My second book, The 3-Season Diet, was all about living in harmony and eating with these natural cycles. It's powerful. I can't even emphasize the value of learning how to reconnect with these cycles of nature. And as I talked about in part 1, now that we understand our microbes, and how the microbes in the deer change from season to season to season. If you eat the wrong food when the microbes aren't there, you're in big trouble if you're a deer. Now, we seem to be way more resilient, but are we? It's food for thought, right? And I think that the point being is that do less and accomplish more means to live in harmony with the natural cycles. And I talk a lot about that, and I've done videos and articles about how to do that. And I encourage you to, if you haven't heard that information, that's a powerful tool. We have a whole 28-day Ayurvedic lifestyle challenge where you actually are given a different Ayurvedic technique every day for 28 days to learn how to live in harmony with the natural cycles as a lifestyle with the current downstream so you feel energized at the end of your day. It's a powerful tool. I encourage you to learn about that and how to connect with Mother Nature. It's just like so obvious, right? But the second, my second most favorite quote that goes with the do less and accomplish more is do nothing and accomplish everything. What is that? Well, my best analogy for that is the sun. Okay, the sun sits there and it sort of does nothing, and it seems to accomplish everything. Everything that we're doing here is because of the sun. No sun, this doesn't happen, right? So it sits there and does nothing and accomplishes everything. A nucleus of an atom sits there and does nothing and accomplishes everything. The eye of the hurricane sits there and does nothing and sort of destroys everything. Remember, in part one, it's the coexistence of opposites. It's the ability to be dynamically active and composed at the same time. My first book, Body, Mind, Sport, was about the runner's high. My best race was my easiest race. Roger Bannister, when he broke the 4-minute mile, said the world seemed to stand still. He said I felt I was going slow, as if there was no pain, as if I didn't even exist. He felt he was in some crazy zone in the eye of the hurricane where he didn't feel like he was even running fast. This is the do nothing and accomplishing everything model. And I think it's something I know that I'll spend the rest of my life trying to figure that out. But I know that meditation is a key to the puzzle. That if we don't turn this off and learn how to create a nervous system that is still like a calm lake, so we can see the bottom of the lake, that the nervous system, the mind, the body, the emotions are still and calm. And in that stillness and in that calm, we have more clarity, more awareness to see old mental and emotional patterns of behavior. Our natural, innate healing system can see and have the wherewithal to deal with stress issues and problems in this organ or that organ system and begin to heal itself. But if it's so stressed out, so busy, thinking incessantly, it's constantly putting out fires, it doesn't have the inner awareness to create the action to heal, support, and repair the body and create transformational change. Stilling your mind is the tool for creating transformational change. And my meditation course, our 6 meditations of emotional freedom, is called the Transformational Awareness Technique. Why? Because I'm going to teach you how to create a level of awareness. And that's going to happen in the first 3 meditations. Definitely in the first 2, which I'm going to teach you the second meditation today, of how to build on the 1-minute meditation and create a deeper, heightened level of awareness. When you still the mind and become a clear lake, and you see, the body can see more clearly what's inside, we have the ability then to have mental awareness, mental clarity, to see what our crazy mind has conjured up, mostly in the name of safety and security. And those old mental patterns of behavior are stored in our fat. They're molecules of emotion that have been well documented now by Candace Pert in her research at the National Institutes of Health. And she found out that there are molecules of emotion and that they are carried by peptides, little proteins in your body, all over your body. And they lodge in certain places in your body, your brain, your lungs, your spine, your skin, and your gut. Now, interestingly, when you think about Ayurveda for a second, Ayurveda is all about learning how to meditate, to still your mind, where the receptors are lodged or concentrated in your brain. The breathing techniques I taught you in part 1, and I'm going to teach you more in part 2 of the meditation, the second meditation, are where the concentration of these emotional receptors are. Your skin, we know Ayurveda is all about doing oil massages on your skin on a regular basis to feed the microbes on your skin. Your intestinal tract, 85% of all imbalances are sourced in your digestion, according to Ayurveda. We're all about digestion. It's what I talk about a lot. And of course, your spine. Yoga and breathing are all about massaging and relaxing your spine. And they found out at the National Institutes of Health that these molecules of emotion use receptors that are also used by your psychology, your nervous system, which is huge, your endocrine system, all your hormones, and your immune system. And they called it an information network. And they said that if you have a blocked, pent-up, unreleased old emotion, it'll block the flow of this information network and literally cause disease. Ayurveda said thousands of years ago, if you have a blocked emotion, they called it mental ama, it'll block the flow of the subtle energy pathways in the body and literally cause disease. We now know that stress is what causes the body to store fat, and Ayurveda says that these emotions are stored in your fat. And when you de-stress your nervous system, the body feels safe to release these molecules of emotion, old mental patterns of behavior. So we have a level of clarity and a level of awareness to make transformational change. You cannot just do a meditation and sit there and meditate and not do anything with that awareness. You must take transformational action step. There's an old saying that says, to the extent that something affects you is to the extent that it is your karma. Your opportunity for a transformational awareness technique. If it affects you, it's your action. Karma means action. So you can't just sit there and meditate. You have to meditate, create the awareness, and then take action. First establish being, and then perform action, and we can transform. We have created old neurological patterns in our brain that we drive down on a regular basis, based on how we grew up and the stresses that we had as a kid and the patterns of behavior, being a perfectionist or a straight A student or a pleaser or a fixer or a control freak. We all created patterns, and they're 4-lane highways with lights on them. And when we get stressed out, and even when we don't get stressed out, many of us are just driving down those same 4-lane highways. Many of you are becoming aware of the fact that those highways aren't working for you any longer. And we can lay down new pavement. We can create new neural pathways. Instead of activating dopamine, which we talked about in part 1, to feel stimulated and satisfied, we could activate oxytocin by laying down new patterns of behavior. And that's what the transformational awareness technique will do, is begin to lay down patterns. Step 1 with awareness. Step 2 with action. You cannot just meditate. You have to take it into action. And that is a complete Vedic thought. This is why most meditations sort of don't work for people, or they stop doing it. I meditated for 10 years and I stopped. I meditated for 6 months and then I stopped. I meditated and I don't do it. Very few people have the discipline to stick with it because they haven't seen the transformational changes in their life, because we haven't taken the final step to take it into action. Now, in the transformational awareness technique, I give you 6 meditations. The first 2 I'm going to teach you. Part 1, I taught you already the first meditation. In part 2, I'm going to teach you the second meditation. Part 3, 4, 5, and 6 are building levels of awareness, making your nervous system comfortable and calm in this composure, in this silence, and then taking that action into your life. I'm going to teach you how to take transformational action steps to change old mental and emotional patterns of behavior in the last 3 or 4 meditations. So I encourage you to take a look at this. It's a powerful, powerful technique. This idea that we can do nothing and accomplish everything, I love the concept. I think it's too interesting to just not talk more about. And I think about the sun, right? The sun just gives its light and warmth to the earth, and it doesn't ever get anything in return, right? It doesn't care if the flowers blossom, it doesn't care if you kill its cattle, it doesn't care if you chop down its trees. It just keeps shining and keeps shining and keeps shining. Now, if it did say, oh my God, they're killing my cattle and they're chopping my trees down, they're killing my rainforest, so no sun for Brazil and no sun for Texas because they're killing cattle, that's it. The sun would implode and bad things would happen. I really believe that's our nature, to be like the sun. That our nature, like the sun, is to give fully, to love fully, to be powerful, to be dynamic, to have unlimited human potential. I believe that. But I believe that our mind says, whoa, what if I love them and they don't love me back? What if I give all my energy to them and they don't respond? I could be hurt. Because I was hurt as a kid, and I remember that. So I have these old molecules of emotion stuck in my fat that are remotely making me think and do the same dumb stuff again, which tells me that don't do that because that hurt me when I was 6 and 7 and 8. So you can't do it now when you're 37 and 8 and 39. You can't do it. My brain is blocking me. Well, those are patterns of behavior you had to create as a child. They're perfect. They were perfection. But the game of life is to change childlike patterns. Stop playing the child role that you had to play as a child, but start to play the role you were meant to play, and start to lay down new pavement, new neural patterns that free you from patterns of behavior that you had to create as a young child. You see how it works is we're hardwired to want approval from our parents, right? We want them to love us so bad. If we didn't care if our parents loved us, we'd wander in the jungle, get eaten by a lion, and there'd be no people. I mean, it's really that simple. We have genetic wiring to want their approval. That's how it works. As we grow up, we keep trying to get that approval. We want mom and dad to love us. I become a straight A student. I become a fixer. I clean up for everything. I create a personality that somehow gets them to love me. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes I didn't get that love. It's like a rose, got trampled and trampled, probably for millions of years. And then one day they took a vote and they said, what if we grow some thorns? They'll stop trampling on us. So some of us have grown thorns as a protective pattern to protect us from those old hurt feelings. So all of us, even the thorny people, are actually still trying to seek out that approval from mom and dad, that genetic wiring. In the animal kingdom, mom lion grows up, baby lion gets big enough, she says, okay, you're gonna go left, I'm going right, I'll see you in the next life. It's over. You gotta fend for yourself and do your thing. You can't feed off mom anymore. You can't get my attention anymore. We as adults, as humans, replace mom and dad with other stuff, coffee, Coke, shopping, dopamine activators, as I talked to part one. It's not good enough. We can't do that anymore. We have to play the game of life. In Ayurveda, they call it a battle, the great battle, in fact. I like to call it a game, which is where you become more self-aware as you learn to still your mind, as you learn to become more calm, as your nervous system becomes calm, as your whole physiology becomes calm, the lake becomes calm, the body can see more clearly old, yucky problems and dysfunction and repair and fix, and the body becomes more in harmony and more in balance, and it begins to function better with more life and more vitality, and you have more mental clarity to see from the director's chair of your movie patterns of behavior that you're still projecting on the screen from childhood that aren't serving you any longer, and you need to take transformational action to fix them. And that's what the transformational awareness technique is all about, is to give you the skills to make transformational change in your life. So as you learn to meditate, you create this transformational awareness where you begin to see that these old patterns aren't serving you any longer. And that is where the sun feels willing to not stop shining because they're chopping down my trees. It's nature to shine, where you realize instead of holding back or becoming another person because I think they're going to like me if I'm this way, or this person will like me if I'm that way, or if I give, or if I'm a straight A student, they'll like me. What about just being your true self? Doing you versus doing them. Many of us, because of our childhood patterns, are still doing them. We're still, and you think about this for a second. How many of us engage in your life, your lifestyle, behavioral patterns with mom and dad and family members, even at work, you're acting in a certain way to make them like you and approve of you. But what if you just gave yourself fully to them and shined your light on them? Would they feel safe in that sunlight? Would they feel warm in that sunlight? Would they feel safe enough to potentially open up the delicate petals of their protective flower and let the truth of them out? Is there a possibility that you, by doing you fully, will allow them to feel safe in your sunlight, and you can actually have a relationship that's actually based on true love with your spouse, with your mom and dad and family members, even with your workers? It's a different kind of love, but it's a connection that's real, that we trust. It's oxytocin. Oxytocin is the trusting, bonding hormone. In the movie The Avatar, when they were climbing up onto the top of that mountain, they were going to jump on that crazy bird, the banshee, and he finally got on the bird, and he wrapped up the tail on it, or I guess, and he was holding it, and the woman said, she goes, quickly, first jump seals the bond. And she said, he's got to jump off this cliff on this crazy bird. The first jump seals the bond. Trust. He had to trust that bird. And when he jumped, he sealed the oxytocin bond. It takes a little trust, a little awareness to see that old patterns of behavior aren't serving any longer, and new patterns are there for the picking. That there's ripe fruit on this tree, that I can give myself fully to my husband, and why not? I hold back because for whatever reason, you think he just wants to watch the game, he's not into yoga, whatever it might be. The reality is that he is wanting your approval. And if you give yourself fully to him, the petals in his flower will open, and like a flower follows the sun across the sky, he will follow you around like a puppy. And you will begin to experience true love. We keep waiting for other people to change so we can somehow become ourselves and be our happy-go-lucky selves. And the problem is they never change because we've never given them our full sunlight. To do nothing and accomplish everything means to learn how to meditate, learn how to still your mind, learn to become aware of the opportunities that exist in your life. To the extent that someone or something affects you, is the extent that it's an opportunity for you to take a transformational action step and be free. That's what this is about. And that's what the transformational awareness technique is for. So I encourage you to learn more about this technique. It's a phenomenal technique. And I'm going to teach you now the second meditation, which is the breathing meditation. And many of us, when we meditate, we go into the meditation, and then what happens is thoughts come in and they distract us, and then they distract us and we get distracted and we can't settle down again. So what we're going to do is we're going to use breathing as a powerful anchor to breathe again and then sink down into the meditation. Thoughts will creep in, and when they creep in, we're going to breathe again and then sink down into that meditation. Every time the thoughts come, we're going to breathe again and sink down into the meditation. Very simple. So we're going to use your breathing technique, the same Bellows breath that I taught you in part 1. You're going to use the same breathing technique 15 times every time you have a distracting thought. What's a distracting thought? You're sitting in your meditation, your eyes are closed. Now all of a sudden you're starting to think about, I got to pick up the kids from soccer, I got to go here, I got to go there. And all of a sudden you become aware of the fact that you're thinking those thoughts. That's a distracting thought. Having the thoughts is not an issue. Becoming aware that you're thinking about those things, that's when you breathe again 15 times and sink back down through the meditation. You can do this for 15 to 20 minutes twice a day. You can do that along the way with the 1 minute meditation that you can still do in your car before you go into the grocery store, and keep resetting that calm, recreating the eye of the hurricane. And the bigger that eye of the storm, the more powerful the winds. And that's what we're after, because the more awareness we can create, the more powerful the winds we can create, and the more transformational action steps we can take to transform our lives and free ourselves. Okay, so please join me for the transformational awareness technique. I know that you'll love it, and I am deeply passionate about it. I really believe it's one of the most powerful techniques that I've taught to date, for sure. It's something that I've been teaching for the last 15 years as part of my Ayurvedic practice. When people come here and they do retreats with us, this is the technique I teach them to give them transformational experiences, and it's been nothing short of profound. Okay, so here we go. We're going to do 1 minute of the Bellows breathing. You can do it even for up to 2 minutes, but in the beginning, we sometimes don't have the ability to breathe so deeply for so long, but you will gain skills in that department, okay? Okay, so we're going to breathe for about a minute, and then we're going to be still, and I'll take you through a couple of reset breaths, and then I'll leave you to meditate for the next 15 minutes on your own. So I'll thank you for listening now. And here we go. 1 minute breathing. And relax the breath. And be perfectly still and meditate. And you might feel that you're having some distracted thoughts, which is completely normal in the beginning. And you're just going to bellows again 15 times in the beginning. If you have to bellows, breathe a lot to pump the oxygen, the prana in the brain, to still the mind and calm the thoughts is completely fine. Soon you won't need to breathe anywhere near as often. So just be okay with this process. The breathing is a powerful anchor to still your mind. So please use it. So again, we're going to breathe just 15 times. And relax the breath and be perfectly still. And stay in this meditation for the next 10 to 15 minutes, breathing 15 bellows breath as needed to still your mind and move through any incessant or distracting thoughts.
This recording is brought to you by LifeSpa, where ancient Ayurvedic wisdom meets modern science. Get access to free health video newsletters by Dr. John at lifespa.com.